Hello, America. This is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is February 4th, 2016. And someone left me a link in the comments on one of my YouTube videos yesterday, and um, I didn't see who it was or thank them for it. A lot of times I have so many tabs open that I just click a link and save the tab and, you know, get to it as I get to it. Anyway, this person left a wonderful link. It's for KSDZ Radio, um, and it's going to have all the updates for you. Uh, you go to this website here, this radio station. It's in the free speech. Click on that, and you want to scroll down. And here's from yesterday, Oregon update with Lory Storm. They have sent a girl named Lory Storm out there, and I'll go ahead and let you listen to this.
Is Lory Storm. We want to welcome her to the airwaves this morning. Good morning, young lady.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Well, to be honest with you, Lory, I think we're just doing as well as can be expected. It's a little chilly this morning, but the sun is breaking through, so we have a fairly good-looking day in order here in the Sandhills, beef cattle country of Nebraska. Lory, you flew to Oregon here just a couple of days ago, and I know that you and an attorney have been very busy on that end of the road. You've traveled a multitude of miles. If you would give our listeners a bit of an update on the situation with the standoff, if that's the right terminology, that's taking place at the refuge there near Burns, Oregon, and give us a little bit of a concept of what's happening with the men that are incarcerated at this point in time.
Certainly. Well, actually, we're now calling it a siege instead of a standoff, and the Malheur Wildlife Refuge is now under siege, not by the occupiers, but by the FBI. But I'll start at the beginning. I did meet up with Roger Roots, the constitutional attorney, out here on Monday. The first thing we attempted to do was to go down to the Multnomah County Detention Center and speak with Ryan Payne. Ryan's wife has been in contact with Roger and asked him to go and see Ryan about representation, and we had also tried to get in to see John Ritzheimer, who is also currently without an attorney. And the detention center refused to allow Roger in, stating they had some kind of a policy that an attorney had to be barred in one of the three coastal states. And the explanation that these were federal charges got us nowhere. So we made some local phone calls to some old friends of mine here, a couple of attorneys and a judge, and Roger riled up the detention center and sent some notes on up the chain of command. And not being able to do anything else here in Portland, we actually got in a car and drove over through John Day, Oregon, which is where they were headed when they were arrested, down the highway to Burns, Oregon. We did go past the site of the shooting. I can tell you it's turned from a crime scene to something of a monument, and there seem to be people there pretty much throughout the day, all day. But we did learn some very interesting things in Burns. We came back to Oregon through Bend, Oregon. The truck that was involved in the shooting, Lavoie's truck, was towed 142 miles away from Burns over to Bend, Oregon, to the state police impound yard, and it is still there, but it is wrapped up in tarps, so no one can see it. And we did learn some pretty disturbing things in Burns. Right now, the FBI has the road to the wildlife refuge blocked off in a couple of places. We attempted to get past the first, and it was a little bit of a tense scene. We were sitting next to an Oregonian photographer who seemed to be camped out on the area, and a couple of vehicles went through an MRAP and a pickup of some type, and we got out and asked them why we couldn't go through the road and what was happening. Of course, didn't get a word from them. So next thing we know, here comes about 6 or 7 armed Suburbans, fully armored Suburbans, come up, high rate of speed, hit the brakes. One of the men got out to move the cones, and I said, why can't we go down this road? He said, well, the road's closed. I said, well, under whose authority? It's not snowing or anything. He said, well, if you go past this, you're going to get arrested. The Oregon State Police and the governor have closed the road. And I said, well, why? And he said, because the wildlife refuge, ma'am, is under siege. And he's getting a little loud, and so I started to get a little loud. And I said, under siege by who? I said, I'll walk in and out. I have no problem with that. And he said, I'm telling you, if you walk across this line, you're going to get arrested. And I said, so it's under siege by you guys, not anybody else. And he said, I'm just telling you, if you walk across the line, I'm going to arrest you. And, you know, okay, they closed the roads. They don't want us in. And if that was a normal FBI guy, you know, it would be irritating. But the problem with this is these weren't normal FBI guys. These guys were in full fatigues, full body armor, armed to the teeth, and there were, 6 or 8 of them in each Suburban, and there were 6 or 7 Suburbans. There's 4 people in there.
Wow.
I mean, it's like we're at war on our own soil, and these guys were just a fraction of the complement. That was just, we asked the Oregonian Reporter, we said, hey, should we call somebody? Are they going to get those guys? And she said, oh, no, that's just shift change.
Pretty large contingent to take care of 4 or 5 guys that are camping out.
Well, and here's the sad truth. The contingent is still downtown at the courthouse. They've got most of the roads around the courthouse blocked. It is also filling up the airport tarmac. The presence that was there before the arrest, according to local patriots, has doubled. So it's quite the insane reaction in Burns. But we did find some things that I will wait to go over until I get back because I need to be able to sit down and look at the notes we've taken. It would appear to me from this point that the ambush of Lavoy Finicum is actually much, much worse than we originally thought. Much more premeditated. The video does nothing but bring out more and more questions, and they refuse to release any further videos or body cams. So we did learn a great deal in Burns. We then came back through Bend and couldn't find the truck, so we headed back to Portland. And we got a phone call that Roger has indeed been allowed access into the jail, and this morning we are on our way down to see Ryan Payne and hopefully John Ritzheimer.
Well, that's good news, Lory. I'm glad that you're able to gain access to visit with Ryan Payne. One of the things, Lory, when I look at the video that was released by the FBI, this quote-unquote unedited video, now, I'm here to tell you that is about as big a crock-a-malarkey as I've heard in a long time, because we hear early on how Ryan Payne had put his hands out the window and his head. Somebody shot at him at that point in time. But when you watch the video, you never see Ryan Payne ever get out of a vehicle. And later, after Lavoy is shot, later, if you continue to watch that video, you see 2 women and a man in a cowboy hat that gets out, but you never see the 4th person. So obviously the statement, the recorded statement that Victoria made early on in this deal, that Ryan had stuck his hands out the window, they shot at him, that he gets out of the vehicle, but you never see that on the video. So you know that there's been some major editing on this unedited video that was released by the government, but there was some major editing that took place there, and that's all there is to it.
Well, that's exactly correct. We know now for a fact that that part was edited out. There's going to be more to what happened with Ryan Payne. I think that the reason you heard Victoria in the video say that he was amazing is that he did stick his hands out the car window. He did wave them. You can see that in the video. He then pulled them immediately back in, and what you can't see in the video that happened on the ground is that the officer shot at him when he did that. And Ryan being concerned, I'm going to assume, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. We'll have a visit with Ryan today. He got out of the truck fearing for the safety of everyone in there, including the 2 women. And posed himself in front of the armed men, try to talk some sense into everyone and calm things down. But Lavoy decided that if they were going to be stopped on the road and then summarily shot at before they were even requested to get out of the vehicle, that they weren't safe. And boy, did he end up being right. There are also several other pieces of the video that we now know are missing. So the FBI's claim that this is an unedited video are completely debunked at this point. The problem here is, Jim, as everyone listening knows, we're a little radio station from central Nebraska, central western Nebraska. We seem to be the only ones out here with any curiosity as to what actually happened.
You know, and
For
that
the most
is,
part, the news media is packed up and gone.
and that is very amazing. You know, when you stop and look at the grand scale of this thing, and of course there has been some nationwide coverage, worldwide coverage when it comes down to it, but there are not enough people that are asking near enough questions, and I don't understand that, because it is the media's job to be the government watchdog, regardless of how this shakes out. It still is the media's job to ask the questions and to get legitimate answers for the public. And broadcasters, as well as print media across the United States, I'm sorry, but they're doing an extremely, extremely poor job. I do not comprehend that.
I don't either, and I can tell you, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, so if I don't get home, somebody please bail me out. But I not only think this was an ambush, I think that a person could maybe make a stretch at this point and possibly find proof later that this was just a premeditated outright murder. You can't lure somebody into a box canyon where they have no way out and then start firing upon them and expect any human being not to defend himself.
Well, and that's absolutely right, Lory. And I know that you have additional information that you and Roger found at the site of where this shooting took place. I don't know that you're at a position you want to divulge that just at this point in time, but I know that you have some proof that there truly was, that it was more than just a stop. There was an ambush. I mean, the table was set. That's all there is to it. And you've got some information, I know, at some point that you want to share with the listeners there.
You know, I will share that with you when I have left the People's Republic of Oregon and am firmly back on terra firma in good old Nebraska.
Right. I understand. Well, Lory, I want to thank you very kindly for calling in here this morning. Now, I know that you have a meeting coming up here very shortly. Roger has a meeting coming up with Ryan Payne. Now, that's in Portland, right?
That is in Portland at the detention center. And really quickly before we go, Jim, I want to share with you maybe the most important thing of the morning.
Okay.
They are obviously planning an ambush at that Malheur Wildlife Refuge Center. I think at this point those people's chances of coming out of there alive are about 1 in 1,000. Those FBI agents yesterday would just as soon have shot us as spoke to us. I mean, the hatred was palpable in the air with those men. I was challenging them, standing out there unarmed, and as you know, I don't look very formidable, and they would have just as soon swept us aside as even looked at us. And we have one last chance. Pacific Patriot Networks and several of the other groups in Oregon and Washington are planning on a march on Saturday morning. And we need anyone and everyone who can possibly get here to go in there as a force and a front and make sure that those people walk out of there in one. If the justice system believes it needs to deal with them at that point, I guess so be it.
So when you tell me there's a march being planned, you're telling me there's a march into the refuge to where these people are to help bring them out safely. Is that correct?
In Oregon, we plan to have enough people to march down that road, and we hope to have enough people and enough cameras to get in and get out unaccosted.
Well, we'll hope that there are some of the major media boys there with their cameras running, because if you're going to march 100 people in there, 100 or more people in there to march these other people out, we'll hope that the feds don't open fire on everyone there. And you can't trust them anymore. You must be safe.
No, I absolutely believe that not only can we not trust them to do the right thing, I think we should just assume that they're going to do the wrong thing at almost every turn. From what I've seen, and everyone who has listened to me in the past knows I already have very little faith in our federal government. From what I've seen, we have no reason to have any. We are truly now subjects. We truly now live in Venezuela or the North Korean Republic or anywhere else you can imagine that if you speak out against the government, you will face repercussions, and that could mean giving up your life, as Lavoy Finicum did.
It's a sad situation that is going on in this country, and I'm afraid it's been going on for years, and the majority of us, I feel, have been asleep. But little by little, Americans are beginning to wake up, and I just hope there's enough Americans left to actually wake up and accomplish something. Lory, I'd also want to let you know and let the listeners know, I did have a visit last night with Brianna Bundy, and at this point in time, I really am hesitant to make a telephone call to Lavoy Finnegan's wife. I would like to have a copy of the autopsy. Brianna tells us that she will get us one. We have heard all kinds of reports that Lavoy was shot 3 times. We've had reports he was shot 6 times. We've had reports that he was shot 9 times. Now, obviously, the autopsy report will help shed a tremendous amount of light upon that. And there's also some thought out there that the particular firearm that the feds are saying was found on the Lavoy was actually a stolen firearm out of the Portland area over a year ago when somebody ran the serial numbers. Now, whether that is just, whether that is true or not, we have no idea. But little by little, additional information is coming out, and I think all of us are quite disappointed that the feds, the Oregon State Patrol, all of the law enforcement officers involved, quite distraught that they're not releasing the body cam video because the proof would be in the pudding, so to speak.
Jim, I believe it will never come out because that will cause that. I think that might be the precursor to a serious stand against the government. And the rumors about the planted gun unfortunately connect to issues with the wildlife refuge that put those people's lives at risk. And I'm not going to mention that right now because I don't want to escalate anything that's going to happen out there. I'm just asking people if they can make the drive to Burns, Oregon. We may have one last chance, honestly, in this country to make a stand. Otherwise, there's a half a good chance that the people in the jail right now will rot there under terrorism charges if the government gets tired of being poked at. Roger is going to do everything he can, but as you know, they're now in the hands of the justice system. And unfortunately, they're in the hands of a justice system in Portland, Oregon. They were brought here purposefully because they have an attorney and a judge pool that can be controlled. We were told this last night by a retired judge from Portland, Oregon. So, we are definitely the underdog here, but we do have an opportunity to at least stand and say you will not murder any more people and get the 4 people who are in there out and then try and pick up the pieces and figure out where we go from here. But
sure,
it's not a good situation. It's definitely just not a good situation.
Well, I'm hoping, Lory, that after you have had the opportunity to meet with Ryan Payne, in all seriousness, I'm hoping that possibly you're able to call a press conference right there in Portland and help the national media get a little better idea of what truly is going on, what has gone on, and hopefully what will go on in the days to come.